Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Charging Station. Doesn't that intro music just pump you up?
It gets us ready to go for this time together. I'm excited to be with you guys again for another episode of The Charging Station. And so tell us where we're heading and what we're doing on this one.
Pastor, I'm not real sure, to be honest with you. I know that we are going to be doing a Monday morning recap style. If you don't know what I mean by that, we used to do a Monday morning recap for all of your sermons on Sunday. This week, we're going to recap what you talked about Sunday again. So we're kind of doing that setup. I enjoy them because it gives me an opportunity to get more in your mind and what you actually were trying to pull out. Not that you don't do a great job communicating, but, you know.
Good answer.
It's just good.
But I enjoy it as well when we get these times because there's so much that goes on a Sunday morning sermon. And you know this. I mean, obviously, when we have a 30-minute sermon, there are hours and hours and hours of preparation and more material. And then for me to get the perspective of what you guys are thinking as well, it's just a beautiful conversation that we get to have. We hope that you'll join in on the conversation as well, that you can comment on this on social media, and I'll let you do the spiel on all that about the sharing and what they can do from here.
Just click the share button if you're on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, you can't share it, but you can subscribe to our page, click the bell so you get notifications when we go live, different things. If you're watching on our Subsplash app, which I hope that's where most people are trying to get to, Pastor, Subsplash app or the Subsplash website, that is bayharbor.cc, or the app on either iOS or your Apple or your Google, Android, whatever device you're using, download the app. You can click on the live there, and you can actually. We're working on, Pastor. You may not even know this. We're getting where we can comment and talk back to people on that as well. So you'll be able to.
I thought I heard something about that's coming up, and so I'm excited about that too. Just ways that we can connect and communicate with you, and so that is what this episode is about. This time that we have together. So thanks for joining us. Let's do it.
So let's do it. So I'm just going to read the passage you started out with. It's Solomon, Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon. What a graduation service it was. Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 7. Tell me, O thou whom my soul loveth. Wow. Where thou feedest, where thou makest thy flock to rest at noon. For why should I be as one that turneth aside by the flocks of thy companions? I'm reading King James Version.
I was going to say, you.
I'm sitting there reading it.
I got you.
You read it.
Yeah.
I got you.
I was like, man, that's like weird. Okay.
Tell me, my love.
There we go.
Where are you leading your flock today?
Yeah.
Where are you resting your sheep at noon? Why should I wander like a prostitute among your friends and their flocks? If you don't know, O most beautiful woman, follow the trail of my flock and graze your young goats by the shepherd's tents. Does that sound more familiar?
That's more better. But now, Pat, let's just take a second. The version versus King James Version versus NLT. Can I just ask you a question? Why do you? This was not on purpose. Why do you prefer the NLT?
You know, I have, and
I say prefer. That's really not the word.
No, I've studied the King James. I look at the King James. I go back to the King James with everything because it was what I was raised on. It's what I was familiar with. But what I have found is that when we have people that are coming to Christ who are unfamiliar with that language, it is more difficult for them to understand the word of the Lord. And so it's not something I've done lightly, but I try to be consistent with it because that way when people buy Bibles that I'm reading, then we're on the same page all the way across the board. And so I don't think you're asking me to go into the depths of the difference between the two, but the King James was revolutionary in its time. I mean, it was the modern language over 400 years ago. And so it was new then, and I'm sure it had its criticisms, but for me, it is just more of the language of the people. Yeah. And so that's why
I agree, and I didn't do that on purpose, but since I messed it up, we just went with that for a minute.
I like it.
So just tell us, let's just, Pastor Tom, is it okay with you? I'm going to jump straight to him with this one.
Go for it. Yep.
Tell us your heart with this.
With the whole book of Song of Solomon or this particular passage?
Particular passage. Where did it come from? Why did you preach this sermon this Sunday?
You know, first of all, when I get the direction that I get from the Lord, and it was clear this year to spend some time in the Song of Solomon. I don't know how long we're going to go in this, but what I sense is that God is trying to draw his people closer and closer. Now, for me, it is, like we said in the service Sunday, it is because he loves us. It is because he wants us to enjoy all of the benefits and the blessings of who he is. Why would we have something that's available for us and not want to have what we can have? I believe if there's anything that is ours and we can get, we need to get. And it's the same thing with our relationship with the Lord. But from a prophetic standpoint, I'm concerned about that because often the Lord blesses us with his presence because he's preparing us for something that may be coming. There may be a season that we're going through here, and when you begin to look at the news, because not too long ago, we know that Biden was I think he was in Japan, and he was talking about what's going on with Taiwan or just different things. We don't know what's going to happen in our world, and so we need the intimacy that Jesus is offering to us. So we've got to accept his invitation for closeness. And so that is part of the passion that I have for this book. But then also on Sunday when we talked about the graduates, there were some practical applications for anybody who's going into an unknown season in their lives.
Which, yes, the graduates are definitely doing that. However, aren't we all?
We are. Every single one of us.
Yeah.
You know, just to take this route, I know that a lot of times we look at our relationship with the Lord as a future thing, and that, you know, I'm just trying to make it to heaven. And there's more to it than that. There is this life and that intimacy that we can have with him. I think that's important. And I personally feel that drawing towards intimacy with God. And I love those times where I can just be alone with him.
Yeah, and there's a caution with this, because when it comes to our relationship with the Lord, you can't always base it on feelings. Because there's times for me, I don't feel close to the Lord. Monday morning after preaching that sermon was a good time because I didn't necessarily feel close. But that's when I rely on the facts. So feelings may help us, but facts sustain us. So even when I don't feel it, I can go back to the fact that I know in God's word that this is what he says, this is what he's doing, and the fact that I'm saved, the fact that he wants me, the fact that he loves me gets me through when the feelings aren't there.
It's like going back through a love letter from your spouse. Even though you might be angry at them or they are angry at you, you can go back and say, I know this is just an emotion. I know this is just a fleeting thing, because I know the heart is that they truly love me.
Even in a marriage, sometimes you've heard it, I know you have, where a husband and wife will come to you and we're just falling out of love. And I heard the other day, there was I don't remember who said it, where it came from, the podcast, whatever it may be. The guy mentioned, he says, you don't sell your car or get rid of your car or burn your car because you ran out of gas. You fill it back up again. And in our relationship with God, sometimes it can be the same way.
That's good.
It is, and that is the other part of all of this. I know that the Song of Solomon is the most romantic book in the Bible, and I am holding back on a lot of things that some people read into the book because I don't think it's germane to what we're facing. However, there is the side benefit of all of this is the strengthening of marriage, because I'm a firm believer that I will never be as close to Jennifer as I'm close to the Lord. I will never be as close to my spouse as I am close to the Lord, because the closer that I get to him, and you can look at the triangle that has me here, her here, and the closer that we get to the Lord, the closer we're going to come to each other. So I think that is part of the beauty of this story as well.
Yeah, you know, I think about that because I get mad. You know, I think we all do, and you try to pray and you can't pray because you ain't got things right with your spouse. You know, it's just your relationship with God is affected by your other relationships, especially with your spouse.
We used to live in the Parsons where the Kidman building is, and just that short walk from there to the church, I would be upset with Jennifer and try to walk just over here to pray, and I'd have to turn right back around and walk back to the house to get things right with her so that I could come in and pray. This is not going to be a marriage time, so we got to move. We got to move
Let's
on.
get on.
But there
I'm
are
just laughing 'cause
benefits
I'm
for
with you.
marriage. There's benefits for marriage too. So.
Yes, there is. Yes, but that all goes back. I believe it goes back to our relationship with God, just like it is with our spouse. So tell us where are we at? Where are we at? Okay, so tell me, my love, where are you leading your flock today?
Well, we don't know that he was a shepherd, but it's obvious from the passage that he must have been. Now, it could have been that if this book is describing Solomon, which I'm not convinced that it is. I think there's some elements of it with it, but we have seen that he was a king. Now we're seeing that he's a shepherd. And not to try to read too much into this, but it's hard not to. When you begin to read this, it's hard not to put yourself in your relationship with Jesus Christ. And Jesus is the one, whether he is the king of all kings, ruling over everything, but he's also a shepherd that's ruling over or caring for his flock. He is the shepherd king in our life. He is the lover. But I think that before we get into that, it's essential to look at the fact that the woman goes to him. So often, it is easy for us to go to others when we're talking about the struggles that we have. And we talk all around and we talk about all this stuff, but it doesn't come to us to talk to Jesus sometimes. That should really be the starting point. We've got to go to Jesus with the problems, how we feel, what our questions are. And I found myself again on Monday morning after this seeking the Lord and saying, okay, Lord, where are you with this? And it stopped me, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is exactly what we had just talked about the day before. And so, that is the beauty of the relationship, but you don't do that unless you're close. And so we see in this from the beginning, even by the address, oh, my love, there's a closeness that's already being established with them. And that's what makes me excited, because Jesus wants that closeness with every single one of us.
Yeah, that really stuck out to me about my love, and that you just don't go up to anybody and call them that. That takes intimacy. That takes time together. It just feel awkward if it was just anybody that you were telling that. But that old song keeps coming to mind. Just a little talk with Jesus. Yep. Make things right.
There's a new one too that goes good with it. Just talking to Jesus. We'll move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. So I'm gonna jump way ahead, and if you need to back up, you can. But I like when you got to the points of the follow the trail, and you mentioned the follow the trail. In verse 8, he says, "If you don't know, oh most beautiful woman, follow the trail of my flock and graze your young goats by the shepherd's tents." We've got to follow him.
Yeah, we do, and that's where this is. But I don't want us seeing that this is a game that Jesus is playing with us. Jesus isn't playing hard to get, but there is the pursuit of his presence. Anything in my life that I have had to pursue, I have appreciated once I received it because of the pursuit. I often talk about Jennifer, and let me just go on record and say this, that Jennifer is okay with me mentioning some examples from our lives. It doesn't embarrass her because I don't go into detail. I don't talk about all those things. But for one, it's safer for me to talk about us than it is to talk about somebody else. But also, it lets people know the struggles that we go through. And there was a time when we were dating that she just cold dumped me. I mean, we weren't together long at all, and she dumped me. And I went my way, she went her way, but then we came back together, and there was the pursuit of her. And so then when I finally was able to win her over, it was worth it to me because I knew. And I think that's true with a lot of things in our life. And why would it not be the same with our relationship with Jesus? I think it's a strategy. And so, yes, there is the idea of us following his trails, because what she's wanting to know, and that's what we skipped, She wanted to know where he was, and the reason she wanted to know where he was going to graze, going to rest the sheep, where he was going to be at noon, is because she wanted to spend time. And there's a difference. Sometimes it's a matter of checking up because I want to control the situation and I want to know where you are. And so that's control. That's not what this woman's doing. The only reason I'm wanting to know is because I want to be wherever you are. Wherever you are, that's where I want to be. And there's beauty in that.
There is. And please, I know what you're not saying is we have to search God out. God's everywhere. We all know that. But we also have to pursue his presence.
Yeah, because it's something that he gives us the choice, and if he's going to give us the choice, he also wants to know that it's not being forced on him. We're there, and we want to be with him because we want to be.
So what does that look like? What does that look like, pursuing his presence? What I mean, in everyday's terminology, if you could tell us, one of you guys could tell people watching this, tell me, what does it look like to pursue him? That's big.
Well, I want to go back first just a second and say that everywhere Abraham went, Abraham walked with God. But everywhere he went, he set up an altar. And he made a well. And so even though God was always with him, there were specific spots that he felt him, he knew that he spoke to him, and those were important places.
And it's the same thing with us. And then if you want to take the analogy of Abraham a little bit further, the places that he got in trouble is when he went on his own and there was no worship. So whenever Abraham got in trouble, it was because he did not seek the Lord and he did it on his own, and there was no closeness to the Lord in the middle of it. And so that's when he ended up with Hagar. That's when he ended up going to different places because he didn't inquire of the Lord. So with us, This comes as a blessing of the intimacy, but also a warning if we're not close to him. And so that's the two sides of the same coin with that. But to answer your question, I think within this particular passage, we're just looking at these two verses. Now, she had been dealing with insecurities, and so she focused the attention on him, but there's a drive inside of her. But finally in verse 8, for the first time in the book, we hear the words of her lover who is speaking. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And there's the assumption that she should know where he is, but if she doesn't, he's not going to leave her alone. Here it is. Here's where you can find me. Follow the trails of my flock, because when you see the footprints, the prints of where my sheep have been, then you can know that I'm not far. I'm with them. And so to me, the translation is the Lord is found among his people. And I mentioned it in the second service on Sunday, that is one of the prophecies, really, that Jesus come to earth and would be among us. We see it fulfilled in John chapter 1 in the prologue, that he dwelt among us. And so if even today, and I know this is tough, but it's truth. We can connect through Christ in the church.
Yeah. That's good. So pursue him by getting your tail in the church house. Let's just say it like it is, and getting around his people.
Hey, I just want to give personal testimony in this. When I came to the Lord, I didn't come to the Lord at a church service. I didn't come to him at these altars. I came to him outside of the church, and when that happened, I knew. I didn't get told. I knew within myself that I needed to go to church. It was the place where I knew God was.
So, because it's the people.
Let's put a plug. Life groups.
Yeah. I mean, one of the ways that we connect with Christ is by being the church.
Yeah.
Now, that is essential for us at Bay Harbor, because part of our mission is to grow in Christ. And we do that through the spiritual disciplines. We do that through worship. We do that through prayer. We do that through giving. We do that through Bible reading. That's part of the way that we do that. But we also do that corporately through the life groups.
Yeah.
And that is a way for us to connect, because I am telling you, there is something that happens when that's why these times are important, because what we're doing in this moment, and you may not even realize it, What we're doing in this moment is we're modeling what it means for us to be with each other and to sharpen each other. Already today, Pastor Tom just mentioned Abraham. That brings a whole new dynamic to this conversation. Yeah. And so we're sharpening each other, and that is the beauty. And so you are helping me connect to Christ. And so, because why is that? Because the Word also says, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am also in the midst of them. Now, this does not mean that Jesus isn't with us everywhere we go, but there's something exponentially powerful when we begin to get together, because you have Jesus in your life and he has Jesus in his life and I have Jesus in my life. So that's just more of Jesus that's here on this stage. And that is why you're sensing him right where you are. So that's why it's important to even be part of a life group.
Yeah. More information is coming out if you're watching on that. Matter of fact, at the end of this, we're going to pop the QR code on the screen, and we'll make sure you have an opportunity to sign, or a link that you can go sign up. But so let's just keep going. So pursuing Christ that way, obedience. You pursue him by being obedient. Was that wrong to say?
No, I mean, there were some stipulations that I think that the lover gave to the woman. Said, if you want to know where I am, then follow me and feed. Follow and feed. And so what he was saying was, is bring what you have to offer, and then they can graze your young goats at the shepherd's tent. So there was this gathering together, and in the gathering, they were involved in doing work. It's not what leads us to salvation, but it is a sign of the salvation that happens in our life.
Talking about a sign of what's happened already in your life. Baptism is the way that we believe that Jesus has commanded us to make that public profession of faith. So I encourage those watching this, if they have not already done so, to
okay, all right, and we're running out of time, but that's a good way to finish this segment out, I think, because as you're looking at this, I just made this statement that I want to go back to. In no way can you work your way into salvation. We can't work our way into salvation. However, once we hear that, we can't look negatively at working, because working is a symbol, a sign of what has already taken place in our life. Because we want to be close, we'll do everything we have. And we didn't even get to talk about Peter through all of this. But in all of it, it is a sign of what has already happened in our life, because we serve because we want to be close to Jesus, not that we're entering into a relationship and that's what's going to earn it for us. And it's the exact same way with baptism. I'm going to just make this statement. Baptism should not be optional for the believer of Jesus Christ. And I know what's easy to say. Well, what about the thief that died on the cross? He asked about Jesus. He inquired. He surrendered to Jesus, and Jesus said, "Well, today you'll be with me in paradise." He didn't say it to the other one. He said it to the one. And when he did, that man died, and he wasn't baptized.
That's a deathbed confession.
Okay, so then we take that and say, well, it wasn't important enough for him to be baptized. Let me just break it down. The man couldn't be baptized. It was not optional. And we can't be too religious with it, but it was an option for him. So for us, we do have an option. So either we're going to die instantly once we get saved, or we're going to be obedient and be baptized. Because there is the option for us. And I don't want the alternative right now. I mean, I'm ready to go, but I'm not looking for the alternative. I don't want to be in that man's place. I know that there's an option for me, and that's why I do it. And so that's part
and we're
of what
making
we
that
do.
opportunity available for you if you're watching today. Sign up on the church app. Call us at the church. We'll give you more information. And if you missed this one, there'll be more.
Yeah, that's good. And you know, I know what it's like, and you guys do too, to have the Lord prick your heart and do those things. And we have several people who are signed up.
Yes.
They are responding to what God is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for that. And let's end this way, that in the story, this was all because the woman was so in love with her lover that she just wanted to be with him. And you know what? Sometimes, for those of you that might be struggling with the church and may not like people, There are certain things that you do within your relationship with your spouse because you love them even if you don't want to do it. And when it comes to us and the way that we should view the church is the same way. You might be having problems with it for whatever reason you're having problems with it. But if you love Jesus, you want to be where he is. And there's sometimes in a relationship that you do things that you might not want to do because you love the person that you're with.
I don't know how to close that one out, Pastor, but that was good stuff. Hey, man, go back and watch this whole entire sermon that Pastor preached this past Sunday. It was wonderful sermon. Like I said, he didn't even get to Peter. We didn't get to Peter. But the way you tied Jesus into the Song of Solomon, it's incredible. You're gifted. You do a great job. You listen to the Lord, and you speak the words of us. And I thank you. I want to make that known. I thank you for your heart and your obedience to the Lord.
We do. We do.
Go back and watch this.
Yep. And we thank you for watching this. We love you. God bless you. You have a great week.